Hello, Africa. I'm Nancy Metsaya, founder Africa Value Chain, a personal initiative to share what I have learned throughout my career and education because I believe knowledge grows when it's shared. If you've ever led a business, regardless of its size, you will agree with me that you cannot know it all and neither can you do it all. Every one of us depends on continuous learning. Sometimes all it takes is one idea, a fresh perspective from a colleague, or a different way of looking at a problem to win your next contract, get a better supplier, or even get your next promotion. So, welcome to the beginning of this journey as we break the culture of only celebrating completed journeys. Let's learn to share what we know so that we grow together. Now, back to today's main topic of discussion. We stand at a pivotal moment in human history. We're facing a paradox of our own making. Our supply chains are one of humanity's greatest engineering achievements. It demonstrates what people can accomplish when they unite behind one purpose. Today, we see systems built by people that connect people, industries, and economies across the globe. And yet, those same systems that created unprecedented growth are now being tested by a new era of uncertainty. Talk of port congestion, rapid geopolitical shifts, pandemics, climate change. Therefore, understanding these changes is no longer optional. It's essential for anyone who wants to lead, innovate, or build resilient value chains. Whenever a disruption happens, our instinct is always the same. We optimize. But we cannot optimize our way out of today's problems using yesterday's cost obsessed thinking. We need a new level of thinking. Yes, the old thinking gave us the just in time model, a really masterpiece of lean efficiency, which reduced inventory, eliminated waste, and saved companies billions. Because when you look at what is currently happening, we celebrate the lowest inventory costs, but when disruptions come in and from a single point of failure somewhere across the world, all the entire quarter's revenue is wiped out. So our the current systems, yes, minimized cost, but they also maximized systematic risk. They are highly efficient linear systems seated directly on faulty lines, and today's disruptions are simply exposing those weaknesses. And I think you and I can agree that the current design is failing. The linear mindset that created modern supply chains has reached its limits, and logistic failures are often the visible symptoms. But truth be told, the entire value chain requires a redesign, because when one port closes, for example, or when one supplier fails, or when a global route gets blocked, then the entire network suddenly slaps. We've seen how being obsessed with cost and speed has externalized resiliency. We've seen how organizational serials create waste, delays, and poor decision making. So, what comes next? The new thinking is what I call the just in case ecosystem. This is where leadership becomes critical, and as leaders, you must help your stakeholders understand that resiliency is no longer optional. This is not about building larger warehouses. It's about moving from fragile linear chains to intelligent, resilient networks. Because with a resilient network, if one route gets disrupted, another pre established route is already available, allowing operations to continue with minimal interruption. And this means getting multiple suppliers from multiple regions, using multiple transport modes, and ensuring that we have distributed manufacturing. And above all, it means that information flows freely across every part of the business, because coordination creates resiliency, and transparency creates trust. Then visibility reduces the waste. So you don't simply need a better software, you just need a digital supply chain twin. And this is a living digital replica of your entire supply chain, a system that allows you to ask better questions like, what if this port closes? What happens if demand doubles? What happens if the supplier disappears tomorrow? Instead of reacting to sudden challenges, sudden disruptions, you begin preparing for them before they happen. Now, your performance indicators also must evolve as well, which means that you stop measuring procurement only by the cost per unit and start seeing it from another perspective. For example, supplier diversification, looking at the ability to map geopolitical exposure, then measure supplier resiliency, then you also stop evaluating logistics purely by cost per mile, because as we move towards the sustainability journey, the carbon footprint of every business is almost becoming another key performance indicator. So measuring carbon efficiency or gives you an advantage, and also looking at the options of the routes that you currently have, how quick are you able to adapt, will will definitely show the route for the business in these coming years, because now success is no longer about minimizing one variable. It's about balancing multiple forms of very simultaneously. Talk of cost, resilience, sustainability, speed, and certainty itself has also become a competitive advantage. I know what some of you are already thinking. Easier said than done. Yes, you're right. But every transformation begins by asking the right questions. And maybe to share a bit of a practical way to go about this. If you want, for example, to redesign and have the ability to have options within your system, you do not simply find another supplier. You build a supplier ecosystem. Your primary suppliers may continue handling around 60 to 70% of your volume, but you deliberately maintain pre-qualified secondary suppliers in different regions for the remaining 30 to 40%. You also keep them active, you so that that relationship keeps alive. Yes, that costs money, but insurance also costs money. So there is no way out. Either way, you have to put that under your budget, and also make your shareholders understand the why behind. You design your logistics to be multimodal from the beginning, because the strategy now is no longer ship by sea because air freight is expensive. Instead, we are now looking at every shipment becoming a dynamic calculation, considering customer customers, the carbon targets, the geopolitical conditions, the capacity. You you're looking at all the risks involved and from different perspectives, because sometimes the slower ship creates the greatest profit, and sometimes delayed inventory makes air freight the cheapest decision. To make decisions like this, automatically you need intelligence within your system. And good enough, the technology already exists. Imagine a platform receiving information from every point in your network with, for example, sensors attached to the containers you use in shipping your products, production forecasts, weather data, port congestion, geopolitical risk indexes, then social unrest indicators. This is no longer a dashboard. It becomes a predictive simulation engine, and most ERP systems already contain many of these capabilities. So the challenge is not software, the challenge now becomes collaboration. Yes, your IT team understands the system architecture, but it's your logistics manager that understands operational realities. It's your production team that understands manufacturing. It's your sustainability team that understands environmental priorities. So stop separating these functions, bring them together, design systems around today's realities, not yesterday's assumptions. And this is how organizations move from reacting to anticipating, from sudden surprises to being prepared for the current unseen circumstances. So now let's turn to the business question of it, because where is the return of all this? Because without profitability, there is no business. It becomes charity, and businesses cannot survive that way. So, transparency itself is becoming a product, with customers scanning, for example, a QR code, and they immediately see this was cotton grown in Kasese. It was woven in Namamve using renewable solar energy. It was transported aboard a Maersk vessel powered by green methanol. Its carbon footprint is 40% lower than the industry average. You see, all that information is no longer just compliance. It's it's becoming market differentiation. It's becoming pricing power. It's becoming the investor confidence that we require. It becomes customer trust, and eventually it becomes a revenue stream on its own. And that future has already begun. Looking at the policies, the regulations that are coming, we are already in that future. Finally, the transition from supply chains to supply networks is not an IT project, it's a leadership project. It requires a coordinator who chooses the slightly more expensive route because it will eventually protect the entire quarter's revenue. It means we begin rewarding long term thinking. It means you rethink your capital expenditure, and it also means investing in digital twins. It also means supplier diversification. It means investing in sustainable packaging, so you don't see these as expenses anymore. You see them as strategic investments in remaining competitive beyond 2030. And the companies that will thrive are not the ones with the cheapest supply chains, but they are the ones with the smartest value networks. So, my question for you today is not whether this transition will happen, because it is already happening. My question is, will you make the transition when you still have the capital and the market to influence, to lead, or will you make it later through an expensive game of catch up. I am Nancy Medze. I only come to grind, but never to destroy the grinding stone. Thank you.